Oh my goodness. Hello, finally, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We had a bit of a technical issue going on here, but fortunately, worked it out. So, my deepest apologies, and so grateful you hung in there and waited for me. Electronics, we gotta love them, right? All right, Sheila, she says, hi, everyone. And she says, my intuition says that Friday the 13th is going to be a good day. Oh, it is Friday the 13th. I don't think I even thought too much about that. Okay. Sandra says, hello, dear all. And she says, anything wrong? And Sheila says, I don't know. And Mike, hello, Mike. We haven't seen you for a while. So good to see you. And he says, sometimes things don't go as planned. You got that one right. And he said, you saw a frozen image of me. And here you're seeing the live image, thankfully. Okay. I am so sorry and deeply, I pushed the wrong button and then had issues trying to get back on and electronic issues. And there was a glitch in the computer. And the downside of living in the rural area is internet isn't great. But here we are. So thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful to see you. Okay. We're going to talk about intuition today. And instead of reading what Phillip says about it, I'm going to give you some of the information. I used to teach a 3-day workshop on intuition. And some of this information comes from that workshop. And I want to talk a little bit about intuition and psychic abilities and all that. And then toward the end of the workshop, I will give you some processes, some games that you can play to develop your intuition or refine it. You're already highly intuitive if you're listening to this message. And I'll get there in a minute, but I also just want to remind you, we will get a message from one of my books, the Master's Book of Answers by Phillip, and each page is an oracle. So we'll get that. You've heard me say many times that 17 to 20% of the population is sensitive. That goes by multiple studies, including one by the Wall Street Journal, which is a pretty conservative organization. Also, I think it's like 55 to 60% is somewhat sensitive, or the beginning. And if you listen to my soul, the last 3 videos on the soul, there are 3 different ones there. And it talks about new souls being innocent, middle souls, and old souls. And within that, those middle souls are growing, the old souls are growing, depending upon how many life experiences we've had, or what we call past lives. But that still means, we have 80% or 30% not sensitive at all, and 80% not in that 17 to 20% of highly sensitive. So highly sensitive, it's not always easy living in our world because we have to find each other, because we're not understood by the rest of the world necessarily, and don't always feel we fit in. So we have to find those places where we do. But I want to talk to you, and I did make myself some notes just because it's much easier for me, as I've mentioned, to stand in front of an audience than it is to just look at myself here on the video. And so I made some notes. So you'll see me looking down at my notes every once in a while. But we're going to look at what is intuition, why we need it, what's the difference between intuition and being psychic, how intuition works. I'm going to talk a little bit about my spirit guide and ways to develop some games you can play. I want to also say, when it comes to spirit guides, I didn't realize how many different videos I have out there on spirit guides, but I put several in the link right below between the video and the comments. You can look those up if that's helpful, or just really, I couldn't get them all in. So just Google YouTube Diana Rankin Spirit Guide, and you will get all kinds of information on spirit guides, including how to contact your spirit guide and why to use spirit guides. And basically, it's one for protection, but also we like somebody who can communicate with us on a human level. Okay. So intuition is a way of connecting with that deeper self. our spirit self, our soul self. And we need, in order to be able to do that, we need to believe that we have that deeper self and believe in that deeper self. You know, I read energy and everything is energy. And so we're all connected in that energy. We also have to be able to let go of control. Now, what do I mean about letting go of control? Well, if we're stuck in our mindset that we're in control and we can't let go, and it's not going to work. Intuition is like a good poem. It works through us. It doesn't work from us, or it doesn't work from the human mind. It's from that deeper self. So you got to believe in that. It keeps us safe. You know, why do we want to even develop our intuition? Well, I've had my intuition tell me, you know, don't take that freeway exit, take the next one, even though it's out of the way, and then only to find out there was an accident on the exit that I did not take. So in today's world, even more, our intuition is so important. It helps us work through issues in our personal lives. For example, if somebody's angry at us, it may help us to recognize why, for example. It may help us to know when to put paperwork in for a promotion, when to apply for a job, et cetera, et cetera. It can help us in many, many ways. And the big thing, though, I think that is so important is our intuition helps us connect with that deeper self, that important part of ourselves that I think helps us grow spiritually. And growing spiritually helps us grow as humans. There's a difference between intuition, psychic, and the third step, which is the mystic. And we start with the gut instinct, move into intuition once that gut develops into the more sensitive being. From intuition, as we develop and refine our intuition, we move into being psychic. As we move beyond being psychic, we actually move into the mystic. And the mystic is the one who is constantly in connection with the God self, or the higher, deeper self. And that sounds like a contradiction, the higher, deeper self, but the deeper self is our highest being. Again, with spirit guides, I do think it's helpful to work with a guide. And again, just use one of the links below, or go to YouTube with my name and spirit guide, or anyone you feel who can help you develop your spirit guide. I always say work with the communicator, because we have multiple guides around us, multiple healers and protectors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Excuse me. The wind is blowing. I have the window open, and I have a lot of mustard seed around. And this time of the year is kind of difficult because of allergies, which, as I've gotten older, I have allergies, which I never had before. That's another story. I think I have a video out there on connecting with your counsel. If I do, look at that too, because that will be helpful as well. But I always say you want the main guide. That's the guide that's been with you your whole life. It's the guy that can communicate with you in terms that you understand. It's like my Phillip. You know, I've had people say, oh, my guide is this wonderful Native American. I said, that's terrific. What do you learn from the guide? Oh, well, he doesn't speak. Okay, that's all right if you can understand silent language. But if you don't, you need someone who can give you words silently, but words that can help you understand and help you grow. I know a lot of people use cards, pendulums. I have a video out there how to use pendulums. Whatever helps you, that's great, because what helps you in a safe manner, develop your intuition. Now, Phillip, I always feel kind of like a little bit over my left shoulder or up here, and rarely to the right. I don't know why, but I usually feel Phillip, and I know I'm backwards on the screen there probably. But this is my left side. Okay. Sometimes Phillip sounds too harsh to me. One time at a sacred circle, and this was live, and I was not using Philip's words because in giving a message to one of the participants, I was not using Philip's words. They just sounded too harsh to me. And the person I was giving the psychic message to just could not hear me, wasn't getting it. And so finally, I used Philip's words and she got it. Philip has a weird sense of humor, and you've heard some of that, and you've also heard some of his harshness. Be wise about developing your intuition and your psychic abilities. Don't be in any rush. We all know psychics or have heard of psychics who their own personal lives are a mess. Stanislav Grof wrote a book called Emotional Emergence, or intuitive emergence. No, I think emotional emergence. Anyway, in the book, he talks about people who have really kind of lost their human minds, hopefully temporarily, because they tried to develop the psychic abilities, or they developed too quickly and they weren't able to deal in our human world. I know I went through a period of time where I just couldn't even put two and two together to add up the information I needed to give the accountant for my taxes. And I had to work really hard to be able to do that, to put all those figures together, because I was so far into the right brain. And also Rollo May, way back, I don't want to say even maybe as early as the 60s or 70s, 1960s or 70s. Remember, I'm 78, folks. Anyway, Rollo May wrote a book, or I think it was his PhD dissertation, and he put it into a book. And he talks about how and yes, you can see our little girl sleeping back there, can't you? He talks about how many of the people in what then were insane asylums. That's what we called them, and that's what they were at that time. But he talked about how they made predictions that then came true. But again, that deep sensitivity is not always easy in our world. So don't be in a rush. Let this happen naturally. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that. So I don't want you to be in a hurry. And the other thing I really want you to pay attention to is never, ever, ever invade another person's privacy with your own intuitive abilities. So I want to get in a little bit more to developing your intuition, and perhaps even going into psychic abilities. So start with use your observation, your powers of observation. Use all of your senses when you're out and about, and play games with yourself, with strangers. I mean, as a writer, I used to just sit and write stories about different people I saw. And they could be fun stories. We don't have to get serious about this, but pay attention to those powers of observation, not just about people, however, because the wind has stories for us and has intuitive hits. One of the things that we did in my workshops is, with a partner, you would go out in nature and you would get a message for your partner. And in doing that, you learn that nature has a lot of messages. People will call me up and say, this bird keeps coming to me. What does that mean? Or I keep seeing deer, or a deer. A friend called the other day and said she stopped for a fawn, and a deer, the one little fawn, the deer crossed, the doe crossed, the one little fawn crossed, and the other little fawn just stood in front of her and looked at her. And she said she was stopped, but kind of started to creep forward a little bit. And she said that little fawn then started to run, but instead of running, it fell and started sliding under her car. That was a message. And deer are about gentle luring to the new adventure, in which she is. And of course, a fawn would be about a young, just starting out, don't go too fast. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. So just really be available to observe what's going on around you. The best animal communicators, for example, have animals. They've been around animals, worked with animals. They know what animals are thinking and saying. And so it's hard for me to think of an animal communicator that hasn't been around animals. Not to say there aren't any good ones, but just I think it's easier if you've been around animals. Okay, here's another game I'd like you to play. You take an object, any object, and you describe that object, and then you think about, what does this object, all right, let me just take this. Okay, this is an object. And then you take this object and you say, well, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? I mean, you can describe it, but then you want to say, what does it sound like? And then you go into, what does the color of it sound like? What does the color of it taste like? You see what we're doing. We're just taking it to that next level and mixing it up, and taking our brains and mixing our brains up so we don't always see A, B, C. We get to mix things up. This is harder for a person who's strongly left brain. We talked about left brain, right brain in another video. So this will help open up those brain pathways. This is something that also gives us balance, but it helps open up the brain pathways. What I want you to do is just start walking. And as you're walking, you're moving. Well, this is my left hand, but I know it's the opposite on camera. But you're holding the right hand or the right arm down beside you, and you're swinging the left arm. Now you can do this just the opposite if that works better for you. But while you're walking, you're swinging one arm and the other one is not moving. And then once you get that where it's comfortable and you can hang the one arm without moving it, because we want to do this. We want to swing both arms. Can't do that. Just swing the one back and forth while you're walking. And then take the opposite arm, and while this one's swinging, this arm you're going to reach up and down. This one's swinging, and you're going to reach up and down while this one's swinging. It's harder for me to do when I'm sitting down than when I'm walking, honestly. But you get the idea. Now, when you mastered that, well, this one's swinging and this one's reaching up and down. This one's reaching up and down. This one's swinging. This one, and again, that's hard to do while I'm not moving. It's easier to do. Anyway, you're doing that. One arm is reaching up in the sky. One arm is swinging back and forth. Then you start counting back by threes. So, for example, let's start with 27. Start small if you can. 27, 24, 18, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That will help open up new brain pathways. And opening up those new brain pathways will help you with the intuition as well. Here's another game. Ask your body when you have an ache or a pain, or your body gets your attention somehow. Ask the body, what's the message here? What is it you're trying to tell me? What is the message? If you have a friend, do that with a friend, especially if the friend has an ache or pain. And with permission, you can tell each other what you're getting, the message. Also, get to know your body. Where do you feel calm? Where do you feel love? Where do you feel fear? Where do you feel anxious? What part of the body do you feel that in? As you get to know that will help you better read the body. And the body is a wonderful instrument of intuition. Here's another game. This is a simple one. Standing in line, before you get in line at the supermarket, simply ask yourself, which is the fastest line? Same way, get in line at the bank, which is the fastest? Before you get on the freeway or before you leave your home, ask, is there a safer way to go? Am I going the safest way? Or if you feel uneasy about turning a certain way, don't turn it. And you can ask yourself why later, but just listen to that little, again, gut instinct, to intuition, to psychic, to mystic. All right. Another game you can play, which is pretty easy, is just take a deck of cards. I don't have a deck of cards here with me, but just take a deck of cards and shuffle it, and then just lift up, before you lift up the first card, try to guess what it is. And second card, third card, and so forth. Just try to guess what the card is. That one I think is a little bit harder. When the phone rings, try to guess who it is before you actually look at the phone to see who it is. So those are just some quick games you can play to help develop the intuition. And again, no rush. Take it easy, because if we go too quickly, if we get too far into the right brain, which is where the intuition is, and again, I'm simplifying right brain, left brain, but if we get too far into that, it is harder to deal with life in the human world. Journal. As a writer, that comes so naturally for me, but journal, if you feel a block of intuition, journal about the block. Also journal about your intuitive hits. Work with yourself to write a personal affirmation and use it before you go to sleep at night, such as, I am safe. I develop my intuition safely and easily. Something like that. I develop my intuition safely and easily. If there is a teacher you can work with a teacher. That's always the helpful way. And always, always, always say a prayer of love. So, for example, only that which is of love may come to me. Only that which is of love may come to me. Even if it's a hit that says a psychic hit or an intuitive hit, whatever you want to call it, even if it's a hit that says, don't do this or do that, say the prayer of love, because the information will only come to you in a loving manner. Is intuitive information always common sense? You want no and yes. No, in the sense that it may not make sense at the time, but don't let yourself get too far out there. Use your common sense with the intuition. So, for example, a lot of people that I know saw angels around the Twin Towers on 9/10 or 9/9. Does common sense tell you? No, but they were in tune enough with their intuition. They knew angels were there for a reason. If you get out of balance and you get too far into intuition and you're not able to do your taxes or add up your 2 + 2, you got to back off. Also, I hate to say it, but in spirit world, just as in our world, there are people who do unkind acts, and there are entities that aren't kind. We want to stay in love. Got it, my friends? Develop your intuition. It's needed in today's world. It'll help you and help all of us. So I thank you for doing that. Do so safely and do so in love. And I hope the few games I've given you will be of help to you as well as the information. And make up your own games. Play with your friends. You can do it. Nature's big, by the way. All right, let's just get our message here, shall we? I'm hearing left. If you heard left, our intuition's in sync. If you heard right, that's a message you need to listen to. And left is page 338. The mud of the water's lily root is as much a part of the lotus as is the beauty of its blossom. The mud of the water lily's root is as much a part of the lotus as is the beauty of its blossom. I think that's a sign, not so much for intuition, but it is asking, it's more about love, asking all of us. We don't have to even like someone or something, but we can love the spirit, because the spirit is what we all are. We can love the world, even though we don't always like what's going on, because the mud is as much of the lily blossom. If you heard right, it's page 339. Peace will not come if you are always preparing for war. Peace will not come if you are always preparing for war. Hello, Wendy. She says, so glad I made it for the live. So glad to have you here. Thank you, Wendy. And hello, Gilda. Excuse me, Gaida. Sorry. Hello, Gaida. She says, hello, everyone from Woodridge, Illinois. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. I want to leave you with this, and this is going to get political, so I'm just warning you. Springfield, Ohio is one of the cities near me. And it's a city I often visit. And it's a city, for very ugly reasons, is in national news these days. And I want to ask all of you, please hold Springfield, especially the Haitian community who are here legally. Hold and here as strong workers. Hold them in your prayers. Hold Springfield, because a couple of politicians, one from Ohio, who's the vice president candidate, Vance, and Trump, the former president of the United States, both said, and I'm not going to repeat it, you know what I'm talking about, but they said horrible things about the community in Springfield, and those are lies. Our governor, who is a Republican, has said they're not truths. The mayor of Springfield has asked it to stop. They're not truths, what those people were saying, and what too many people are saying. And it seems to become the horrificness of this ugliness seems to have started by a very right-wing neo-Nazi group. And it's believed by many. It's not true. I won't get into all the specifics, but I just want to say to you, please send love. And send love to all the people who believe it. That's needed too. And let's stop this ugliness. Let's love. Let's accept one another. Just because our skin is a different color doesn't mean we're ugly and mean and hateful. And just because I'm a woman as opposed to a white man doesn't mean I'm stupid. My friends, we must stop the fear mongering. We must stop the hate. And only people like each of you can do this by spreading love. Thank you. It's the most powerful emotion we have. I love you. T. Lynn says, mediumship skills strengthening, trying to understand and embrace it, hoping you strengthen the claircognizant. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, but random episodes of both throughout life. Oh, random episodes. Gotta put the glasses on. Random episodes of both throughout life, but not coming to understand them. I hope our video today will help you with that. I hope our video will help you. And again, many other videos I have out there and lots of information in blogs about developing. Develop slowly, develop with, remember, only that which is of love may come to me. And trust yourself. It takes time. I've been doing this a long, long time, my friends. Piper got up to say hello. I love you. Thank you for the love you send me. Thank you for the love you give to our world. And remember, if you're hearing this video, if you're watching this video, and T. Lynn says, just discovered your channel and already learning a lot. Good. Thank you. That's my job. I'm an educator. And if you're listening to this video, if you're hearing the sound of my voice, you are part of that 17 to 20% who's sensitive. You are already beyond the gut instinct into the intuition. Develop it naturally. Use some of the games that we've talked about. I love you. Again, I apologize for the issue that up front, and thank you for all of those who stuck out with me until we got the electronic issue fixed. See you next week, if not before. Check out my moments of joy, and I'll try to get some more made this week, at least one more. Thank you. Or next week. Love you. Bye for now.